We're going. We're
Perfect.
going. So good to see you, friend.
Always a pleasure, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's a little rainy in California, which I know is not abnormal for most folks, but it's been raining for like hours, which as a Californian we're just not really used to.
That's a big deal in California.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal. So it's good. It's good, and it's April showers. We expect to bring May flowers, but it's it, it's lovely. I mean, I love rain. I always feel like you feel life. You feel like rejuvenated. Like we're gonna be okay. Something very calming about rain to me. Like
Yeah.
when it's coming down, you're like the system's all working and
Yeah.
everything's gonna be okay. Is that goofy?
No, I mean, as a kid from Eastern Arkansas, the rain is very. There's something about when it rains, knowing that there's like you don't have any choice but like to be still for a minute. Like
Yeah.
it is like the permission of the world to take a minute and
Pause.
just sit out. So I love the rain. I think it's uh if you work outside farming and stuff, I mean, that's the rain is well appreciated. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I do like the pause. It seems to kind of give you this inherent kind of calmness that does all the right things for you.
What have you been working on?
Today, Mike, I've been working on this thing on Kevin Warsh, the the nominee for the Fed chair, uh, and trying to figure out. I mean, I know why he was nominated, uh, but on paper, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, he's always been traditionally like a rate hawk. Like he's in favor, as has traditionally been in favor of high interest rates uh, to quell inflation. But he released a paper. He did an article with, I think it was the New York Times, somebody, where he was talking about how he thinks that AI is going to be the new thing to decrease inflation.
You
And
mean
that's
as a function of the economy, or as an economic impact, or as a function of using AI to lever rates up and down?
as a lever to combat not uh, um, as a not as a tool like for the intellectual property, but as a lever that he thinks that bring it that the advent of AI and like and introducing into larger sectors uh of especially like manufacturing and stuff will reduce inflation. It'll be disinflationary, and
Hmm.
it's the craziest thing from a smart person. Um, uh,
Say more about that. I mean, it does sound intriguing to me, but it sounds very dangerous and very obviously a dramatic change in the way we would execute monetary policy. But say more. Say more about it.
he's very wealthy. Kevin's very wealthy.
Aren't they
And
all? Well, I guess they're
he,
not all. Yellen wasn't.
um, I, it's interesting because he is he has a lot of asset holdings, right? Like hundreds of millions of dollars in asset holdings, and that in and of itself is very rare for a Fed chair. Uh, Now, ethics committee will make him sell them, I'm sure, and I think that he had to sign a. He made it through ethics, and I'm sure he had to sign, and I think he did have to sign something that said he would sell certain assets because it would be a conflict of interest. But if the the problem with my problem with his position on the AI being disinflationary and Trump making the nominee is that I think he would use that proposal of AI being disinflationary to cut rates, and then you're dealing with you'll have a boom in stocks and stuff. I mean, asset holders will uh,
Inflate
always
more.
see a windfall, but then in 6 or 8 months you have this huge inflationary tail on it, and then they'll cap it. Then they'll put he'll raise the rates, but only after, billionaires and 100 millionaires and huge asset holders see, a 10, 20% increase in valuation, which is,
Yeah, my big worry. Can I jump in?
yeah,
Okay.
please. Yeah.
My big worry about the way we've been executing monetary policy and this kind of looseness we've had with inflation is like we're kind of growing accustomed to and numb to inflation, which is really kind of the dollar spiraling out of control. It's worse than tax increases because it is a tax increase to the consumer. It's eating your purchasing power. But the argument is, well, it's inflating equities, it's inflating the stock market. But if the valuation of your dollar is going down, you're not getting richer. And I think that's the big shell game that Wall Street and the government is playing with the average American right now. Is we're not only losing the real purchasing power of our currency, but the assets that so many people rely on with their 401ks, not all, I mean, there's obviously a lot of Americans that don't have equity holdings, and that's obviously a very important consideration. But for those that do, like the middle class, that's like, well, I don't like what's going on politically, but I'm getting richer, and it's these policies that are doing it. If the currency devalues at a rate of 10%, which it essentially did in foreign markets, like we keep looking at the basket of good rates on inflation,
Mhm.
the better measure, in my opinion, is look at the way the currency is devaluing against other currencies in the world. That's where the collapse is going to be felt immediately. That's what's happening is the dollar is losing. It's lost over 10% of its value since Trump became president, in large part because of the big bill, the whatever the hell it was, big beautiful bill.
What do they call it now? The working families tax credit.
I don't know what the hell they're convincing people that it is. But my point is, if the stock market goes up 15%, people think, oh, we're doing good. So we'll put up with the crazy. We'll put up with the nonsense. We'll put up with the vulgarity. We'll put up with the divisiveness. We'll put up with the crazy wars. Because I like his policy. I always love that one because no one knows what the hell his policy is. There's no rational person that can say what
Right.
his policy is. But the market's going up. But the reason why the market is going up is because we're inflating the market.
Mhm.
That's what's happening. It's not real value increase. So if the market goes up 15%, but your dollar is devalued by 10%, guess what? That's a 5% increase. And that's not enough to sustain like a retirement plan or portfolio.
No.
Especially when the dollar is starting to cascade down in value now. That's where the Republican Party really, um, the Democrats too. I mean, I was going to say Republicans. I mean, this because they're in control right now, and they get elected on this promise that they're kind of fiscal conservatives. They've been far worse on these issues in many instances than the Democrats. And the Democrats, I guess, are at least honest about it. But the debt policy, the tariff policy for sure. Like I don't know how anybody thinks that's even makes a modicum of sense. But the devaluation of the dollar is, I think, probably the biggest danger and threat to the economy right now. And it's hard for me to hear any of these proposals that you're talking about, but be thinking like that's what they're really trying to do is to salvage the dollar as the global currency. That's what I think Venezuela was about. That's what I think a lot of this stuff that we're engaged in, even Greenland, these trial balloons are about preserving the status of the dominance of the dollar. And so when I hear that, it's like, of course, that's what they're going to do. Because what it does is it allows you to keep, it's a different way to inflate the dollar, as well it is.
The scary thing for me is like Peter Navarro gave an interview the other day, and they asked him to explain how the U.S. is in debt uh, if it prints its own money, you know,
Yeah.
and he couldn't explain U.S. He had no idea how U.S. how a fiat currency works, or why how there could be debt if there's a, and that's one. Peter Navarro is not an economist. He just wrote a book on China. And do you know the story about how they found Peter Navarro?
He's from San Diego. He ran for Congress as a Democrat years ago.
He wrote a
Yeah, right.
book about China, and Jared Kushner just found him on Amazon, and they just made him. But he made up his own economist to support his claims. That's
Yeah.
just an anagram of his name. It's the craziest thing. And that wasn't disqualifying for anybody.
No, that's all the more reason to bring him in.
And he's all about tariffs, but he doesn't. I don't think he understands what a tariff policy actually. I don't think he understands tariffs. One, and he's certainly. It's scary that he doesn't understand the way currency, like how the government doesn't own the money, the people own the money. That's why they're in debt. It's crazy to me.
Yeah.
So I wonder sometimes how much they understand about what the inflationary market does, because an inflated market doesn't affect a big asset holder like that in the same way it does a wage earner.
For sure.
I'm not sure that they do understand why inflation matters the way they think it does, or the way that we think it does. And I certainly have. It certainly worries me that they don't understand the U.S., like the dollar as a global reserve, and we don't have much further that we can slip. I mean, I think around 47% of global holdings, and we start really having conversations about uh, what the next global reserve currency is going to be. I mean, it's not today we're global reserve, tomorrow we're not, but it starts to
It's already happening.
slide. I think we're at 55% global holdings right now. That's crazy.
India and China are executing petro trades in yuan right now.
Yeah.
So by the end of Trump's term, we will be under 50%. The dollar will not be the majority global reserve currency as a direct result of the Trump administration. I'm not saying that there weren't problems before, but there's a way to solve them to make us more competitive and to build our economy in a more healthy way. The idea, like the Strait of Hormuz, is a big deal for a whole lot of reasons, and I'm not sure. I mean, I want to say I'm not too sure. Like the media is covering it right, but they are. It's just I don't think that Americans' understanding of just how central this whole thing is to the toppling of everything, and why the administration is in a complete panic right now. Who goes to negotiate to get back to where we were before we bombed them?
I don't know that you could get back to where we were before we bombed.
No.
I don't think they have any. To be real honest, like I don't know what the. I don't know what the White House could consider a win at this point. And I mean, they're gonna have to start thinking of wins in the aspect of getting out without any more damage being done. Like that's gonna not a hey, we got something out of this, because I don't know that there's an avenue for that.
And they'll lie, and Republicans will largely believe it.
Sure,
they'll just say this we won, whatever. Like most Republicans are so locked into this propaganda and IV drip media ecosystem that they just talk to themselves on, based on nothing about reality. It's all based off of what they are told to believe, and they will adjust it at any time given whatever they're told to believe. Like I've been watching it for 8 years. These people that used to be like anti-tax are like okay with tariffs, and people who are free markets are now protectionists, and say they hate debt, and they're like big beautiful bill. Don't like the size of government, and yet as long as it's people who are armed, masked, jackbooted thugs, they're all about it now. Like everything that they were afraid of, like a Bernie Sanders presidency about, they're cheerleading for it. It's the most peculiar thing I've ever seen, but it just tells you like how powerful propaganda is. And it's not like they're being force fed it. They voluntarily go back to the trough and just eat it and just kind of stick their head in it and just engorge themselves in garbage and believe it. So that's going to be, when history is written to look back, it's going to be like, there's going to be like how Troy fell with this wooden horse and how the American empire collapsed because of the greed of influencers who were paid to parrot Russian talking points and destabilize us from within. And when we find out the amount of money that the Trump family and the enablers and the grifters and the NRA has been on the Wayne LaPierre's, problem. That was all Russian money. Now we're seeing it with CPAC.
Yeah.
With that money that was moving through Hungary and Orban, where do you think that money was coming from? Like, that's Russian money. And you'll see these conservative leaders, Republican leaders, standing up for an authoritarian, a dictator, a pro-Russian dictator undermining NATO, and they hold him up like he's something to be emulated, something we want to turn the United States into. I just never thought, like, I think as a young man, I always thought, like, if America was ever going to lose empire, it would be by, bloody battle, and good luck taking down this, people of character and goodwill. And so many Americans before us have died for so much less, for others. The battle hymn of the Republic is probably, I think, the greatest American poem ever written. But that line where, I should pull it up. Maybe you can pull it up. It's men that give their lives so that others can be free. Like the North, right? Saying, well, we will go die for this cause of freedom bigger than ourselves for slaves. Like, there's nothing more virtuous than that as an American. And here we are, like, we will just give it away to Benny Johnson. We'll give it away to Diamond and Silk, give it away to Tim Pool, and give it away to, Laura Loomer. And I don't know if, I'm sorry to keep going on here. I don't want to.
No, please do.
I just like Tucker Carlson's, yesterday coming out and saying, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Like,
yeah.
Even now when I hear these voices coming out, like I said, I still struggle with it because it's like, it was so obvious from day one that this was not only anti-American, it was anti-conservative, it was anti-Republican, and conservative and Republican are not the same thing. They've never been more distinct and different than they have been at this moment in American history, or at least in the history of the party. But they were both. It's both. and like, for people to just capitulate and give up their country, to hurt their conservative cause, to hurt the Republican Party, for what? For a handful of silver.
I don't, there'll be a lot of talk about Tucker Carlson's apology or whatever. And I won't trash it too much in the next few days, because I think he does have a platform that maybe some people on that side can start to curb. But I think Tucker Carlson is smart enough and is educated enough that he didn't have to just start being a journalist in the last year. He could have been doing that for the last 20 years.
Right.
And you showed everybody that. Like, and so it feels awfully convenient to make that change when Donald Trump's approval rating is in the toilet and it's never coming back. You know that Democrats are going to win the midterms. There's going to be there's a palatable shift in the political state of the country. He's not stupid. He sees all that the same way the rest of us do. So I think he's more of an opportunist. I think he has some anti-Israeli views that I think are kind of the the catalyst for some of it. But I think if it weren't for opportunity and kind of reading the room, I don't know that it'd be the same. And I agree with you. I think he's going to run for president. So I think he needs this to kind of establish himself and kind of move away, kind of center the Republican Party around himself. But uh, I so I guess it's great to hear you say that you apologize for the harm you did, but I think you knew the harm you were doing when you said it originally. I don't think you're that dumb.
I agree.
Right.
I think he knew what he was doing.
He was making all that money at Fox News. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah. Well, he was part of why they had to fire her. His lying was why they had to fire him. Like, so yeah, he's made millions off of lying and feeding the propaganda machine, and they all know it. They've all been doing it, and they wanted the money. And yeah, look, there the amount of money that is flowing through Republican politics from foreign sources is disgusting. It's despicable. And how easy the American character was bought off by people that called themselves constitutionalists and claimed to be patriots and shit. It's so disgusting. It's like you ate like all of the ice off of the wedding cake and now you're sick because I'm sorry.
Oh,
And it's so glaringly obvious to everybody except for people in that own echo chamber, to the point where even if they know it, they don't care, which is what Trump is.
mhm.
It doesn't matter. It's our side. As long as we've got somebody to hate and something to hate and some other people to hate, um, that's justification enough. And just as I look back, like, at my career in Republican politics and just watch like all the over the top grandiosity, the faux patriotism, the screaming eagles, the Flag Day stuff, and you just realize it's all covering over this vapidity, this basic insecurity of what America is. And that's what I think Trump really captured. And I don't know where Tucker goes with it. I think it's going to be interesting. I think he's a far stronger political character than most Republicans think at this time and most Americans think. I think he's incredibly influential, and I think he will probably be the single largest force in whatever changes with American foreign policy towards Israel exist. Or not exist, but will exist.
Oh, I think he will. I do think the Republican Party will center around Tucker Carlson. I think that will be the move. No one else. There's not anyone else that has the. He kind of has the best of. He has the donor. I think he can pull the donors that that you would have Cruz getting ordinarily. But I don't think there's much appetite left for that neocon sort of pro-Israel, uh, uh, I don't even know if I would call Cruz a traditional conservative, but that style of neocon politics. I just don't know if there's much appetite left for that, even in the Republican Party. Uh, Especially as this thing with Iran drags on, like it's whatever whatever facade existed there is crumbling, and there's not even a mask on it anymore. Like it is very or should be very apparent to everyone that um, whatever alliance we have uh, with Netanyahu is us as a proxy for his sort of whatever demands and whatever his goals and stuff are is what it is kind of looking like. So I do think Tucker kind of takes the mantle of that. I don't know, but I don't know what that does for politics. I can't get a handle on his politics. He's changed so much in the last 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, he's not the and he can articulate the classical conservative arguments very well. He clearly didn't believe in it because nobody who voted for Trump is a conservative. You can't be. They're not compatible.
Right.
They're just not. Um, so I think where it comes back to is more of an isolationist policy. It is as it at its core very nativist. That is the dominant strain of the Republican Party now. I don't believe that was the case when I was 20 years ago when I was working actively in Republican politics. It was always there. I mean, it was always there. There's no question. It was the Pat Buchanans and the going back to Lindbergh, and the America Firsters were always there. And the American Firsters, they're blood and soilers, is what it is. They call it America First. What it really is it's just pure unadulterated nativism.
Yeah.
And that will always be with the Republican Party, always. And I could tell you, like, when you look at just demographics, will tell you, like California, for example. People think, oh, if you're a California Republican, you must be more moderate. No, not even a little bit. But here's a really fascinating thing about California, which we don't talk much about Californians in politics, Republicans in California politics, because they're very marginal and it's a super minority. Republicans are they end up being about 27-30% on about their mid-20s in terms of registration, but it's an 85% white party in a state that is less than 33% white. Like, you can't say there isn't a direct correlation, because there is a direct correlation between racial identity, and partisanship. Now, I'm not going to excuse the Democratic Party for that either. The Democratic Party is very closely aligned with racial identity too, but the Democratic Party is always correctly characterized as a party that focuses on racial identity. It does, I think, too much to my for my liking. But it is the Republican Party that is the dominant purveyor of racial identity politics. It's just white identity, so nobody notices it.
Yeah.
We are now, as whites are shrinking, but Republican politics are absolutely about white identity politics. And again, like I said, when you're a super majority, you don't even need to say that, because the small niches are what you focus on when a party starts advocating for it, the way the Democratic Party did in the 60s and 70s during the Civil Rights Movement. Now that, we're going to have a non-white majority country in the next 10 years, and whites are behaving the same way and getting more intense about it, we're starting to go, wait a second, this is like white nationalism, this is white extremism, and it is. And it's getting more extreme as it gets smaller, and it feels more under threat or under siege, and that's where the Tucker Carlsons and play into these fears. It's all fear of a changing America, changing demography, changing technology, changing economies, changing institutions, and it's most easily captured by playing to making America great again, which in large part, what that's driven by, well, look what's going on with mass deportations.
Yeah.
Like, we don't care about the Constitution anymore. We'll wear masks, have law enforcement wearing masks, not identifying themselves, not following the Constitution, arrest citizens as long as they're brown and don't look like what an American should look like. Like, go at it. In fact, we'll triple the budget. We'll expand it by threefold to make it one of the largest, essentially, private armies in the world. And it's Republicans who are, these constitutionalists that are saying, go do it.
I am constantly amazed at the amount of knowledge that these constitutionalists don't have about the Constitution.
It's remarkable.
They, and I mean, genuinely I feel like have never read it, or have never spent any time with it. But I do think that those people think that the Constitution exists for them, and only for them, not for anyone else that really that lives here or is a citizen here. Do you think that some of the Republican kind of we're talking about is like white identity? Do you think they're losing a little bit of hold on that as sort of the socioeconomic blend becomes a little more balanced with?
Yeah. I wrote about this in my book. One of the major conclusions is we're in a foot race with democracy. What you have is these white nationalist conservatives, blood and soilers, America Firsters, that are shrinking, and they're holding on by their fingernails into these institutions. And what they're saying, what they're telling us, What they're demonstrating every day is if we can't control these institutions, we will destroy them. And the foot race is, can enough non-European, non-white nationalists who believe in the American creed take those roles by demographic transformation, just people coming of age and getting older and becoming higher in level of running institutions and companies and government and political parties and all of it. What's going to happen first? Can these people tear it down? Because they believe fundamentally it's not just the Constitution for them, they believe the country is for them.
Sure.
That's what J.D. Vance's, the horrifying part of J.D. Vance's acceptance speech at the Republican National Convention was. It was the most anti-American, anti-creedal speech probably ever given by a presidential nominee or a vice presidential nominee of a major party. It was extraordinary, where it was all America is a nation, America is a place, it is not an idea, and that place was established and set by our lineage. Like crazy. Like it's anti everything that we are taught as Americans, that this is that this is based off of these universal Jeffersonian principles that we are all endowed by our creator. It's anti-Reaganism. Reagan was out there saying, we are the beacon of the world. We are the city on a hill. We are the ones that fight for these values. Whether we did or not, at least we said it, right? At least we had the temerity to say it. Now it's the exact opposite. It's like, nope, that's not what it is at all. That's not what America is at all. America is about building walls, keeping those people out, preserving our heritage and our cultural identity. There's nothing about cultural identity in the founding documents. Nothing.
Yeah, and I don't really buy into the whole white cultural identity as something that needs to be preserved anyway. I mean, uh it's
It's
the
cowardice.
the US is too vast. It's too the the differences in cultural identity from state to state are so fundamentally different that um it's silly to try to wrap it up into one race's cultural life. It's just absurd. Uh, but I mean, they've done a job of it. I mean, they have certainly convinced people that that shit exists. And I think that's why they use religion because that's the connecting piece. I think for most people is that they go to church.
Yeah, but they're even losing that. That's why they're attacking Catholics, right? And it's why they're opposed to immigrants are the ones that are bringing religiosity into the country. Like without immigrants, Christianity dies in another
Yeah,
generation and a half in this country. So if you really cared about your religion and really cared about the principles of America, say what you will, you would be extremely pro-immigrant because that's the only thing that is going to keep those things intact. Literally, that's just math.
yeah,
You lose the American idea, you lose the confidence and belief in America, the American mythology. It is the immigrant that believes more in America than any other group. And with the least with the least tangible reasons to do it. These are the poorest, hardest working, least ownership in society have the most faith in it. It is the people that have been here the longest and that are the wealthiest and that are the whitest that have the least confidence in the future of America this moment in time. It's extraordinary. But again, this is what Tocqueville told us too. Like this happens. If without immigration, it's like that shark. Without a shark swimming, it will die. It has to move. Without an influx of new people that believe in America generationally, we lose confidence in it. Even though we have all the material successes, all the success that our grandparents and great grandparents came for and hoped would happen one day, once it happens, we start to lose it because I'm convinced it's because we lose genuinely our cultural anchor. And what we realize is we get materially wealthy, but spiritually hollow. That's
yeah.
what happened. That's what happens to Americans, and that's what's happening at this moment. Is there are no cultural anchors, so we try to create it, like with proud to be an American, right? Like this glossy bullshit, right? And it's like, oh, let's just fly jets over and let's go to Mount Rushmore and eagles and fireworks and and that's what that does is that substitutes for a people's commonality with religion and history and food, a common. We don't have that. And the idea that freedom and values is sufficient as a cultural anchor has never been true.
I I think we've lost all in the last 40, 50 years. If there was any sense of community, it's been completely destroyed by a lot of things. But there's no more community development in like social clubs and stuff that people went in after work and they had this sense of identity and community that was built there. Now it is very condensed to the people you go to church with or the people you don't go to church, whatever. But uh, there's not that sense of even if you went to like a Lions Club or a Kiwanis Club or the Elks Lodge, there was a sense of there was giving back to the community. You saw the community on a different level, um, and you spoke with people that there were bad groups too, but the idea that you would come home from work and then go do things outside of that has been stripped away. Nobody goes and works 40 or 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week, and then finds time to go do things after work as part of a community group. I mean, that just doesn't exist anymore. Uh,
This may be something that still exists in your part of the country because if it does, it will be in your part of the country. It does not in mine. When I was a kid, and there would be a knock at the door, like it was exciting, like somebody's here. Like
yeah,
we all run to go open the door, and who opens the door? And you open the door, and it's like, oh, it's a neighbor. Oh, it's a friend from across town. Like, hey, I was in the area. We want to stop by. Come on in, hang out a little bit.
yeah,
Like if somebody random knocks on the door now, it's like, what does that mean? Like,
yeah,
this is, like people, even like in political campaigns, door knocking isn't as effective as it used to be because people
right.
don't want people coming to their doors anymore.
I mean, truthfully, I mean, if I'm not really expecting anybody, I'm not really interested in
Seeing them.
seeing them. I mean, it's
Yeah. And that was when we were kids. I
yeah,
mean, I'm older than you, but when we were kids, like that was how you interacted with people. And when people would come and knock, it wasn't that big. It was like a thing. Like,
yeah,
oh, hey, there's Tom's house. I haven't been in this part of the neighborhood. Let me go see him. I haven't seen him in 6 months or a year and a half. And you knock and they'd be like, hey, wow, how you doing? Come on in. I think we've
yeah,
got some cookies. And everybody would like sit around the table and would just talk and
yeah,
interact. And now it's like, wait, what? Like, who is that? And then you've got like a monitor. Like, who is it? Like,
yeah,
what I mean? Um, I, let me interject one other thing here.
yeah,
I received another. I don't know why people ask me for these things, but a very consequential nonprofit in California, a group called Socolo Public Square down in Los Angeles. They're based out of Socolo is the public square. The Socolo is the big famous Mexican plaza, and it's called Socolo because it's about bringing sort of the kind of discussions you and I have to kind of a broader audience. It's all intellectual discussions about the country, the state, the world, the neighborhood, what's happening to it, and they do all of their programming for free. Well, they have this very prestigious book award, and they give out an award every year to a book. And I got a call from the executive director about a week ago, and she said, "We'd like you to present the award, and we want you to have a discussion with the author." So I'm getting into books now, if that's all right. I don't mean to
yeah,
be
yeah,
but
please, yeah, yeah, yeah,
this book, and I just got it today, so I'm literally 10 or 15 pages into it. It's called Something Between Us. And what it is, it's an anthropological look. This is an anthropologist who wrote it, who it's kind of the Bowling Alone book that we're all familiar with, like you were just kind
yeah,
of referring to.
yeah,
This gets into the psychology of how we not only talk about people being separated from us, but the anthropological and the social way we have completely embodied that So that's why the build the wall rhetoric is important. But he also says, like, we're building cars for consumers off of consumer research that are more like tanks to protect us, even though like pedestrian deaths have increased by 50%.
Mhm.
And like we sell things called body armor. Like we literally everything from our own skincare products to the nutritional food that we eat is all designed to be protective from everything in the outside world. And how that is so reframed and recharacterized our understanding that we're losing the ability to have community, to be in community, to expect somebody to knock on your door, not know who it is, and to be excited to be like, oh, who is that? Let alone deal with immigrants coming or demographic change. Like that's why
Yeah.
it's so inherently sensitive. So sorry about that tangent, but
Oh,
we'll post. Robert and I are going to post some of our books once we get the structure right on Substack, so that we can keep adding to them. Because I would add this one to it. It's called Something Between Us, and the title comes from a James Baldwin's debate with William Buckley, where he's talking about his countrymen. And even though he was a black man who lived a segregated life and white people were not aware of the black story, the black existence, and probably could not relate to it, he would say, as countrymen, there is something between us.
Mhm.
We don't know what that is, but there is something that connects us. And I think that's where we are as a country, is trying to find that again.
uh, I I hope that some of wherever we are now has shifted focus back toward those of us that do have uh, things in common more so than the it's hard to look, even if you're not educated and up to date on everything, and that you can read the economics of the situation, or the politics of the situation. I do think that most people have have to see that this is not a group of people that is serious that's in charge, that this is not decisions being made for their best interest. I hope so. I do think that's why those approval numbers are where they are. I mean, he's minus 74 in in on the economy right now. I mean, that's
I see. I think it's that. I don't think it's the incompetence. I think it's just the price of gas. Like, I mean, I hate to say it. I don't mean to be dismissive of my
sure.
countrymen, because there is something between us. But I think I've been so disappointed for so long and trying to understand basic common sense that people know and understand. And it might be just because I worked with so many of these people for so long, and it's so obviously wrong. It's so obviously bad. It's so obviously incompetent. It's so obviously immoral. It's so obviously antithetical to everything that these people claim to have stood for, and yet they still do it. And I can't make that same leap in reality, and I don't want to. I don't want to be that distance from from my heart and my conscience and my soul and my brain and my ideas. The detachment these people have had to go through to justify what they see every day. And again, a lot of these people live in a bubble, so they don't see everything every day. They have a very curated experience with this guy, and they subscribe to that, and they will reject consciously anything that does not fit that narrative, because once they start to accept one thing, it all starts to cascade downward.
Well, I think that, and not to give a pass to anybody, because the empathy for your fellow man should be a prerequisite for life. But it's if I think for so many people, if you talk about so many of these things miss them, right? So immigration doesn't really affect them. I mean, it does, but not directly. Um, Healthcare changes. So many of them are probably getting healthier through work that the prices didn't affect them in a way that felt substantial to them, maybe a little bit, but not. And when things don't hit you directly, and the party is reframing things as that's not true, like it's not going to, uh, and then, but gas is something that is universal. I mean, across everybody, If you're getting around in the United States for the most part, gas affects you on so many different even if you're not just buying at the pump. It's and it's something that you recognize immediately. You know how much it costs to fill your car up with gas, and if suddenly that is 40% higher, you notice that number immediately. It's not abstract, it's not coming down the road later. It is right there right now, and not that it should excuse anyone not seeing any of this earlier as being bad policy, but I do think that that is the reason for a turning point. So maybe I don't know if it affects him long enough to stay on the "he's lied to us the whole way" train. I think that it's upsetting right now, but if gas prices stabilize, change does that change their minds and they're back on his team? Uh, if if he can get a new Fed chair that drops the rate so the stock market explodes for 2 months before inflation starts to catch up to it, do they look at that and keep pointing to the Dow uh as their barometer? Which I still don't understand how that many people who don't have money in the stock market look at the Dow uh,
Barometer of
as a
success.
barometer of success or economic strength. It's crazy. But I guess if you don't know better and somebody keeps telling you that's what it is, I guess you'll go with it.
Which I think that's a lot of it, and I think that's why ultimately it comes down to the price of gas. Look, I'm very fortunate, like a lot of us are, but I remember being in an elevator coming down in a parking garage downtown Sacramento. I was leaving a meeting, and I was with a woman. We were kind of chit chat. It was a Friday, and I said, "Well, you got a big weekend plan?" She goes, "I'm rushing out a little bit early. I had to leave the office early because I got to go get gas because I found a gas station where the price of gas is a little bit cheaper right now." And it reminded me of growing up as a kid who, grew up, you know, on the margins. Let's just say that very much on the margins, where that's reality for a lot of people. Like, if you got to leave 15 minutes early to beat the rush to get to the gas station to save 3 cents a gallon because you fill up gas for next week. Like, I'm grateful I don't have to pinch pennies like that, but that's a lot of Americans. That's a lot of Americans. And they're not necessarily online and they're not watching cable news 24/7 and they're not, engaged in the way a lot of people are. A lot of them, frankly, don't have the luxury to do it because if they had time to sit around and watch TV, then they're going to go drive Uber or get on Instacart or go clean houses because they need a side hustle to survive. If you're worried about a 3 or 4 cent fluctuation in gas, a side hustle is part of your existence.
Yeah.
And you start to see $1.50 spike in gas. I mean, you don't believe anything that's being told you anymore because you can't make it anymore.
Well, I think at some point, I mean, so many people that are going to be in that situation are going to live a good distance from work. I mean, it's not, uh, and especially in rural communities, you may have to drive 10, 15 minutes, 10, 15 miles to work. And that gets, you may continue going to work, but it's going to really put strain on what you do outside of work. And that affects small towns in a very big way. That affects, and that s- spider webs out to the, uh, to the broader economy. Um, and that's the stuff that is a long-term realization. It's not something that you see in a month or two. It's something you see in 2 years as businesses, can't make it, or in the next year where places have to shut down because they're not seeing the business they once were, and coupled with higher prices and a failing dollar, and it's bad all the way around. And so I do hope that there's enough in the midterms that we can turn the tide, but I don't know how much damage gets done before then.
That's the $1 million question. So Virginia just happened. Virginia just passed their measure to allow redistricting
Yeah.
to go forward. And I don't know what the margin is. I know they're still doing some counting, last minute counting right now, but it seemed a couple things that stuck out to me. It was, I think, probably a 4 or 5 point margin. I think some Democratic precincts were having lower performance than Republican precincts, but not enough to offset a measurable market gain.
Yeah.
And I don't want to read too much or too little into that because, as you and I have talked about with special elections before, it's easy to prognosticate and say this happened this election, that's what this means. But this is another win for the Democrats who are fighting to lock up more congressional seats. How are you talking to people on the ground in Virginia at all?
I've spoken to some people today, and I will probably talk with Amanda Nelson. I'll text her in a bit or talk to her in the morning. But I have odd feelings about redistricting in that um, I don't like it. I don't like it ever. Uh, but I also know that this is the result of a lot of Republican gerrymandering that's been done in the past. That's kind of messed up some districts. And so I do think that in 2030, they'll probably, I mean, it's temporary. I think it'll go back to something that's a little more independently drawn then. So I I hope that there are measures, and I know Democrats have addressed it before of having measures put in place that would, you know, get rid of the ability for a state to gerrymander itself for a party that would be all independent anyway. I hope we get to something like that. I do understand the idea here, but at the end of the day, I do think that it is always a bad thing to deprive any people of their voice uh, intentionally. Now, I know again, I understand that it is in response to things that have already been done. Um, so I know that it is a different situation because I think what happened in Texas should have never happened, and then every other Republican state that took it on after that uh, did it. If those things hadn't happened, this would be happening. I know that. So I do in that sense, I agree and understand what's happening. Is uh, it's a group of people not bringing a knife to a gunfight kind of thing. Like it is. So it, I get it. I do think it'll pass. It seems pretty favorable. I know that there were some. I know it's kind of put Spanberg in uncomfortable territory with some of the people that supported her. Her approval ratings are down because of it, even though it wasn't her thing. I think some Republicans are kind of holding her responsible to give her a chance. But I think once the initial shock wears off, I think Virginia's going to do some really good things. And I think that it'll kind of level out and people will be back on board with what's happening there. Uh, and, Southwest Virginia, where they essentially dumped all of the Republican votes. I know the person that's running as a Democrat in that area, and she is up against a lot. Uh, and it's going to make it very, very difficult for her to win. But she is getting good support there. But it will be very difficult for her to win. Yeah, because I think it's going to end up making her district like R plus 45.
Oh, that's brutal. Well, God bless her.
But I
Yeah.
mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene's district picked up 27 points for Democrats. I mean, it's not 45, but it's you know, uh,
I think
they
there were,
her
yeah,
Republican opponent did a bunch of lying to a bunch of to the coal union down there. So that may hurt it.
coal country.
Oh yeah,
I
it's very coal identified. They a lot of coal jobs, and they culturally identify with that.
oh
Sort of
yeah.
like farmland in the Delta. I mean, it's
Yeah.
um,
I Yeah, that's tough sell the National Democratic brand in coal country. But there will be a swing. The question is gonna be how big, right? I'm reminded, and I think it's very, very difficult for people to set down their partisan blinders and step back. But I think that Virginia, the outcome, again, I think is obviously a win for the Democrats, but we're not seeing the explosive margins that we were seeing before, in large part because they just elected a Democrat by explosive margins. And I think people need to listen to that. This was not Spamberger's winning was not an affirmation for Spamberger. It was a rejection of the Republicans. And we've got to get past this belief system that when we win, whichever side wins, that it's a mandate and people finally figured it out and they really want us. I can show you all the way going back to the 2000 election. Virtually every national election since then has been about getting rid of the incumbents. And it's about getting rid of the incumbents because of that mindset that gets immediately goes out with the first press release, which is it's zero sum. The base wants this, give the base what it wants, and then prepare ourselves to lose the next election, which they do. And then the pendulum is now swinging so radically right and so radically left that it's coming on the hinges. The axle's bouncing. Like it's that bad now. And I have the same view as you do on redistricting. I'm very unpopular for this, sort of proudly. I think it's gerrymandering is cheating. It just is. When you're trying to get partisan advantage, it's cheating. And then I know it's in response. I'm completely aware of the arguments. But what really troubles me, and before we got on, I was talking to a very prominent national Democratic pollster who I won't name, but he was saying, this is I've learned not to talk to partisan Democrats about this and partisan Republicans because they're both so absolutely convinced that their side is more virtuous in this existential battle that nobody has the capacity to step back and say, wait a second, maybe we are doing damage through this process. And his argument was we didn't have a choice. And my response was Martin Luther King's rejoinder, it's never the wrong time to do the right thing.
Right.
It's not okay. I understand why you did it, but it is not okay. And it is not good for our republic and it is not good for our body politic. It may be good for your party. And I know that you now equate your party as the only savior of democracy, but I can show you dozens of texts between Republican colleagues who voted for Trump for that exact same reason, as they view it as an existential threat. And when you empower that, you empower people and parties to do what Donald Trump is doing, which is go zero sum, go scorched earth. And I really, really, really despise the term fighting fire with fire. Because when you fight fire with fire, everything burns down. You fight fire with water. Okay? And even Gavin Newsom in the middle of Prop 50 stopped saying that after Charlie Kirk was shot when the rhetoric was getting really high. And you had Kathy Hochul, the Democratic governor of New York, saying that we're in a war. Redistricting. This is war. And when you talk to your partisans like that, when you talk to people that believe in you 100%, which is half of America, and you start telling the Democrats to fight fire with fire and go to war and let's burn it down and let's cheat more than the cheaters on the other side. I know that it feels good, but it is so incredibly destructive to the next generation of Americans. And the great irony, and this is what I was saying in the middle of the Prop 50 fight, we are heading into an environment where the Democrats would have won these seats anyway.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
That's what's so disturbing. It's like you chose to cheat. You lose the moral high ground. The Democrats don't have the moral high ground on this anymore. They have demonstrated that they are willing, able, and capable to cheat more than the cheaters. I get why they did it. I don't like why they did it. I disagreed with why they did it, but they did it. But there's no denying that they do not have the moral high ground on this. They don't. Nobody does. Neither party does.
I do believe, and maybe I'm a little too idealistic, but I think good policy wins elections if somebody has good policy that they're presenting. Because I know somebody will say in here that Donald Trump didn't have good policy. He got elected. Uh, but when he came out and said was that he was going to do these things, that he didn't present policy. He just told people he was going to give them the outcome that they were looking for. And I think what wins is now that you do have a little bit of power as the Democratic Party, uh, you should do the things that actually fundamentally help people.
Mm-hmm.
And we should give some time to the people that are uh, get back to that sense of like we're all Americans. Like it's not, but there's such a divide amongst what people that can that not only identify with a party politic, but they like to consider themselves part of a group or a team. Uh, that, and I know there's there are divisions inside of that, but the DNC itself is very unpopular right now. But leftist and progressive politics and candidates are still winning handily. So I do think that you're obviously right that it is more of a rejection of Trump, but I think that you have to seize the opportunity to one, regain any sort of moral high ground or any sort of moral character that you had, and then two, to actually implement the policies that are best for your constituency uh, across the board. Uh, instead of continuing instead of like progressing the whole idea of, well, you voted for Trump, like yes, but it has to be things that are good for the overall good for um the collective, I guess would be that to me that is where I think we should be. If Democrats are winning plus 27 a lot of places, the districts in Texas that they redrew probably would have gotten those anyway, or at least gotten half of them. I don't
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Uh, and I do think that the Republicans have drawn themselves out of a lot of seats because of
100%.
doing this.
Yes.
And I don't know that it's not gonna be super majority, but it's gonna be pretty heavy, I think, with the
It
way
sure
this
looks.
war's going.
Yeah, it sure looks that way,
Uh,
Robert.
uh, and I don't think there's any hope for them keeping the Senate anymore at this point, or it's getting very, very close, uh, to a loss of both houses, which I'm not sure is great for Democrats if they don't have some sort of policy to build back into, but that's a different conversation.
Actually, I think it's a good segue to the California conversation, if we could.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it.
Um, so I've had a busy 4 or 5 days. As I shared with you, I moderated the first governor's debate post Eric Swalwell implosion, and the beneficiary in the immediate aftermath, it's a gentleman by the name of Javier Becerra, former Health and Human Services Secretary under Biden, former state attorney general, former congressman for 24 years. Um, And nobody could figure out why he wasn't in the top tier. He wasn't Tom Steyer or Katie Porter, which were the three candidates at the top tier. Everybody else was in the low single digits, was where he was kind of mired at. So I did something very unique. I actually hired a film crew myself down in LA. I flew down early in the morning this Saturday, and I went to this rally that Becerra was having. And the reason why I did that is because I had talked to people on the campaign, and I'm in this position where I'm not working for or against any candidate, so I know everybody on all the campaigns, and so I talked to all of them, and what they told me was that I called them and said, why are you guys what do you guys account for all of these people moving in your direction? You went from like 3 to 5% up to 15, 17, 18. One poll has them at 23. Like all of Swalwell's voters moved to Becerra, and you can't orchestrate that. Like something
Sure.
organic was happening. And so I called the campaign and they said, we don't really know. And I said, do you guys have a good social media campaign? And they were like, we don't have a paid social media operator. We haven't had the money to hire somebody. It's all happening organically. So and they said, but here's another indicator. First of all, his social media channels were blowing up. They were tripling, quadrupling in a matter of hours. And then this rally, they're planning on having this rally in Los Angeles, and they're hoping to get 200 people there. By the time 5 days later came along, it was over 2,000 RSVPs. And so they had to change locations 3 times to manage this crowd. And what I immediately thought was, okay, you're talking about hundreds of people all in one location that literally just changed their mind and don't know this guy. He's not part of their infrastructure. I want to go talk to these people and see what's on their mind.
Sure.
So I hired a crew, went down there, videotaped it, cut a tape, but I've got dozens and dozens of all of these interviews, Robert, with all of these people that are like, yeah, I was with Swalwell 4 or 5 days ago, and then I kind of did my homework, and now I'm with Becerra. And the question I asked was, why? Like, why? And almost every one of them, which explains why this massive shift happened, said, we're tired of the party telling us who we should vote for. I want to vote for somebody I think we need.
Yeah.
And I thought, boy, that's like talking to Robert out there with real people on the ground. Like, this is what's driving this anti-establishment stuff in the Democratic Party, which it's the exact same stuff, Robert, I heard in 2010 as the Tea Party movement was starting in the Republican Party. As people were like, we're done with the Republican Party. It's bullshit. It's establishment. It's power. It's all about picking who our candidates are supposed to be and telling them what they want to do. And nobody is listening to us. And they're doing all these things that they want to do. And in Democratic politics, they call them corporate Democrats. In Republican politics, they call them the globalists. They're all responsible to somebody outside of their coalition that is somehow pulling the strings for them, and they resent it.
Do you
And so
think that the Koch brothers essentially buying the Tea Party killed it?
that's a great question. Let me say this about the Tea Party. I still have yet to have anybody define to me what is, from a policy perspective, different from the Tea Party than from the regular party.
Oh, I don't think that there was anything different. I think it was just they didn't like the money part.
I don't even know if it was the money. They were just kind of like the Democrats right now. They're just so done with their own party
Yeah.
that they will just overthrow it. So I'm sure the Koch brothers coming in with money and buying it off was a sign. It's fascinating you said that, but I'm gonna. This was fascinating to me. Our Revolution, Bernie Sanders' organization, just endorsed the billionaire in the race in California. That is crazy. That's like the Koch brothers buying off the Tea Party. It's antithetical to what is happening. And how Bernie Sanders, who's been railing on billionaires, I don't know. The rumor is he may endorse the billionaire over the working class Latino guy in the party, which I don't think Bernie would do that. Bernie has too good of an instincts, but his infrastructure just did. It's unbelievable, and it's like, what are we witnessing? It's like the Republicans being populist by being bought off by their own billionaires and thinking that they're standing for the working man.
Well, if I were to guess, I would say that Bernie only supported Steyer because of the single payer rhetoric.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be but again, as you and I talked, saying it is one thing. Showing me how we get there is something completely different. So um, I don't know. It's also very interesting to me that 10 years ago, Bernie Sanders was a radical, and now he's mid-party. I mean, he's uh,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
even really considered that progressive.
And that's the same thing with, Donald Trump is now the establishment sellout, right?
Yeah.
It's going further to Tucker Carlson and this further degeneracy. And like Nick Fuentes is now being normalized as a wing of the party. It's like, and I'm not making a comparison between DSA and the right. I'm not at all. But what I am saying is it is impossible to avoid what you just said. And when you start to see money with the Koch brothers buying the Tea Party and then billionaires buying our revolution, The cynicism in that is unbelievable. And the rationalization of why it's okay because there are billionaires is the same rationalization that says it's okay when we cheat because we're the righteous ones. That's the danger, and that's what's happening to this country. And it's so hard to get people to step back off of their partisan ledges and because they will all immediately be going, oh no, because the threat, we're going to be dead if we don't cheat and we don't turn it over to the oligarchs and the billionaires. But there are billionaires, and it's like, are you listening to yourself? And that reminds me of just like when MAGA, when these, I would listen to these guys going, well, it's just Trump being Trump. Oh, he's anti-Christian. He's anti-free trade. He's pro-Russia. He's pro-debt. Like everything you stood for that got you into politics, you are now actively working against. And I see the Democrats doing it. And it's like, what does that mean? Not just about the parties, it's a clear indictment on both parties, but it's what does it say about one, human beings and human nature, but two, our ability to hold on to democracy, to hold on to this republic.
Well, I do think that there is at least this, from what I've seen, a rejection of the institutional part of the Democrat. It's just say like the DNC is very unpopular right now. Um, and but progressive candidates keep winning who aren't necessarily aligned with actually more candidates are winning that aren't aligned with the DNC platform, or at least the front facing part of it. Uh, I I think you will see a vast reduction in the number, uh, because I don't think people want to identify as that. I think that's the difference on the left is that I think there are a lot more people that want better policy and aren't as interested in being associated with a specific group. I think there is some some desire to be anti-institutional, but on a much but as an identity to not be institutional as an identity. I mean, it's the thing with people being upset with Hassan Piker and not understanding why the DNC is not railing against him, or not understanding why the DNC is railing against him, uh, because it's hurting their people are listening to that guy, whether you agree with him or not. I mean, it's hard. I mean, people listen to him, and he has a huge following, and he has some influence. It you don't if your whole purpose is to select candidates and put up candidates that represent your voting base, maybe start listening to your voting base and putting money behind candidates that are indicative of that instead of fighting against what y'all are referring to as like the radical left. Most of those radical left policies are not that radical. They're pretty much uh they're a little democratically. I mean, they're DSA is essentially what they are, but it's the institutional norms that have served politics for the last 30 years and before that are just kind of unpopular. I think that that's what will get Tucker the nomination for the Republicans, and I am interested to see what happens with a Democratic nominee. But I think it'll be somebody that is way outside of the lines of a Hakeem Jeffries or a Chuck Schumer or a Cory Booker. Like I don't think either one of those guys has a chance at getting out of a primary.
You don't think of who do?
Schumer or Jeffries
Oh,
or Cory Booker. I don't.
you think if those three are challenged, they'll lose?
Oh yeah, there's no way. Uh,
Does Schumer run again? Isn't he like 130 years old?
I think I mean, I don't know that he'll give it a shot at president. I meant in 28. I thought, like, there's chatter about who will run in 28. I think Jeffries and Booker will both run for president. Like, they'll throw their hat
Really?
in the ring in the primary. Yeah, but they won't make it out of a primary. Very unpopular. I don't see, Booker definitely is gonna run. He runs it he spends too much time trying to be in front of people talking to not have a bid for president. Rose said the other day that he was gonna run. That's pretty out in the open now. Uh, so we'll see. I don't see your institutional guys, your hardline DNC guys, uh, Booker or Hakeem Jeffries even standing a chance getting out of a primary. I think they'll just get demolished.
Jeffrey's in his House seat, you mean?
No, I think Jeffries will run for president in 28.
Really?
Yeah.
Has a sitting speaker ever? Why would he leave that?
I think he's arrogant enough that he thinks he can get it.
Wow. Has a sitting speaker ever run for president?
No,
Doesn't
but
mean won't.
I don't
Doesn't mean
think he'll
won't.
get
But
speaker.
you don't think he'll be speaker? Oh wow. Any predictions?
A couple, but my original thought was that Roe would take it and then uh, possibly run. I think Roe would be a great speaker. Uh, but if he's going to run for president, I doubt he takes his speaker role just to give it up in 2 years and then to try to campaign. AOC would be an interesting speaker. I think that would probably be the next kind of uh,
Doesn't she run for
popular
Senate?
choice.
Doesn't she run for Schumer's seat?
Maybe, but if she gets speaker, I think she would stay in house and be speaker for a term.
Yeah.
I I think there's some interesting choices. I don't think Jeffries keeps. I don't think he gets speaker.
Wow.
Uh, especially with the number of new candidates that'll be coming in that are not
Not
fan. They got, yeah,
Jeffries.
yeah.
It's going to have to be a minority, right? You can't replace Hakeem Jeffries with another old white guy.
No. I don't. No, I don't think that would happen. I think you would get uh, an AOC or a Roe or uh, uh, I doubt Ilhan would be, but you would get a woman or a person of color for sure. I do think I, I think that I think Chris Van Hollen takes Schumer's spot at the top. Uh, that's the one that makes the most sense to me. I think there's probably people that would challenge me with a couple of people, and they could be right. I just don't see. I like Chris. I think Chris is pragmatic and uh, I think he's smart. I think he would be my pick for that spot. Uh, and then, wait to see what the field looks like uh, for 28. But those are my humble predictions, Mike. I don't know.
No, you know the caucus better than I do. So that's why I'm listening. It's great to hear what you're thinking. I can offer 30,000-foot platitudes, but you're a lot closer to the dynamics there on the Hill, certainly on that side than I am.
You know, I don't see the people making making either one of those guys leaving either one of those guys wanting to see either one of those left in leadership positions. I think there would be and I think that'll be part of the mandate of people getting elected will be to see somebody else in those leadership roles.
Yeah, I'm 100% convinced on Schumer. When you said Jefferson, I was like, whoa, like I don't see how you can not have an African American speaker. I think the politics that would be really bad for the Democratic Party. Could be wrong. Could be wrong.
I think you would have African American or Hispanic. So I think AOC would be a good pick if she does it. Uh, she
Does she want that
I
role? That's a thankless role, man.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Most all of my assumptions are based on who I think would be best and not who wants it necessarily. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't think you get out. I'm with you. It, I think that Jeffrey's $2.5 million from APAC is going to be the nail for him.
Problematic.
Yeah,
I think if you're gonna be a speaker, you wanna be a lifer like Nancy Pelosi,
sure.
because it's a really tough spot to run for higher office from, really tough. The only person I've seen ascend there was Gerald Ford, who got there because of the Nixon resignation.
Yeah,
And, Spiro Agnew had to, be driven from office as vice president before that opened up for Ford. As a speaker, you make a lot of enemies. It's not public, but
sure. Yeah.
you're managing, you're herding cats. And herding cats ain't all fun and hula hoops, man. You gotta punish people. And they remember that. You know?
It's it'll be interesting. I may talk to some people and see if
Yeah.
there's some people on the Hill that have some better ideas about uh where people's heads are at as far as wanting the position itself. But
But you're hearing rumblings that it won't be Jeffries though, huh? You're hearing it. It's open talk?
yeah,
Wow. Okay, that's news to, like I said, I wouldn't know, but that's news to me. But as we do get closer, look, I wouldn't be surprised if that's a motivating tool where you start to see, people running in these battleground districts saying, "I won't support Jeffries," and not say who they will support, but just say, I won't support him."
it'll be important, especially in if you're talking about you've got Democratic primaries coming up late
Yes. Yeah.
August.
Yeah.
Uh, that will probably start to be a concern. Uh, that we need a change of leadership. Change in leadership has been a big conversation about, um,
It should be.
and if if you're going to have that kind of turnover, I think that it's a good time for change for a complete change of leadership in those roles.
That's fair.
Uh,
That makes sense.
it's that's the mandate that I think people want. It's not the policy mandate of like we're going to do everything we want. I think it's the leadership mandate of we want our party to look different, not the we want the every I think people forget that we shouldn't not everything that's a democratic policy is gonna work for everybody. Same thing with like you need and I hate to use the term centrist because that's not really what I mean, but you need someone that
You're the adult in the room.
you need people that can say, okay, like we need a balance of like what actually benefits the overall good and work
To
toward
protect
that.
the members, to protect their
Yeah,
members. I mean, when you're the leader, that's your people forget that your number one job is to protect your members and then 2, to grow the caucus.
yeah,
That's your job, and that means if you've gotta take the grenade, you take the grenade. And if you've gotta punish people, you've gotta punish people. If you gotta force your members out, like we just saw with Tony Gonzalez and the congresswoman today, these resignations, it's like, you gotta go. You're hurting the whole cause.
yeah.
And that's not the fun part of the job, man. That is the worst part, is as the leader. And like I said, it's so easy. Look what Matt Gaetz did to Kevin McCarthy. I mean, just ruined it. Took it. It's like, I'll this is a suicide run here. I may go down, but you're going down with me. And he did. One member.
Do you think that we would be in the situation we're in now uh uh if McCarthy was still speaker?
What situation?
Like with the
The sycophant, Mike Johnson, just doing what he
yeah,
said? Yeah.
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 You think he would have done the same thing?
Yeah. Now, and I know Kevin McCarthy. As I share with people, I was in Young Republicans with Kevin McCarthy. Yeah, we were. I mean, he's older than I am, but I've known Kevin for a very long time, and Kevin was one of the few Republicans that I would not speak out against for a long time because it was personal. I did not like what he was doing, but he was a friend. You got to remember, Kevin McCarthy was the first one who actually said there are two Republicans that are on the payroll of the Russians. Dana Rohrabacher, former Orange County congressman, which he was right, and Donald Trump, which he was right. And I've always known, like, Kevin McCarthy was always the moderate. The conservatives hated him. And they hated him because he was the chief of staff to a congressman named Bill Thomas from a very conservative part of the state down in the Bakersfield area. He's the same seat that he ultimately took over. And Bill Thomas was anathema to the right wing of the party because even though he was a conservative and he would know he was a right winger, he understood that they could be damaging to winning majorities. So they would constantly run drills for the moderates in the party, of which I was a part of, to stop the conservatives from advancing with the state party. And they hated him because of it. And Kevin was the vote counter. That's where he got so good, I think, at the process of managing a caucus up until he couldn't. And so that was Kevin's history. Then Kevin, ultimately goes to the assembly, worked with him up here in Sacramento for a few years. He goes to Congress when Bill Thomas retires. Meteoric rise to become the speaker. And I knew from his earlier comments, I knew from knowing him well enough, it's not like we vacationed together, but I knew him well enough that he knew that what Trump was doing was horrible. He was not part of that part of the wing of the party. He had spent a whole lifetime beating that wing of the party, and then once they took over, he capitulated to it. But the moment where I said, "Forget it, I'm coming guns blazing," is when he told Liz Cheney on the phone, "This is all on Trump." And when he went to the floor of the House and blamed Donald Trump from January 6th, and then he immediately goes down to Mar-a-Lago and bends the knee and apologizes and resurrects Donald Trump. Kevin McCarthy could have put a stake in it as much as Mitch McConnell could have put the stake in Donald Trump after the first term. They both will bear that cross in history because they both could have ended it. And that is something that Kevin McCarthy will have to live with on his conscience and on his historical record forever. And he deserves to have that big asterisk and ugly taint on his record because
Why do you think
he
they
didn't
did
meet the
it?
moment. He didn't meet the American moment.
Why do you think they did it?
I don't know. I mean, I think power. Just no other reason is I know exactly why he did it. If Trump still had a hold over enough of his caucus that they would have dumped McCarthy if Trump didn't support him. So McCarthy knew he was on the floor. He saw the insurrection. He knew what it was. He goes to the floor and he says, "This is on the President of the United States." As the fervor of it is undeniable, and the House is gearing up for the second impeachment hearings. McCarthy goes to the floor and says, "Donald Trump bears responsibility for this." He was damning him. It's a history. This is it. We're going to move on. And within a matter of days, Trump puts out the word, McCarthy's done as speaker. He's got Trump still controlled enough votes in the House to oust him. McCarthy flies down to save his career, to save his speakership, capitulates completely, bends the knee, and says, "Now, I was mistaken. This never happened. This was a peaceful protest or whatever it was that Nancy Pelosi let get out of control because she can, whatever the hell concoction they came up with." But that will live. That's his legacy. That is burnished on him, branded into his skin for all of eternity.
Uh, do you think Mitch is what was Mitch's?
Same thing. He could have brought forth the evidence. He could have impeached him both times. He was the leader of the Senate. He could have capped him. The impeachment could have gone forward and he could have been removed.
I find that interesting. I feel like he would have. I feel like for McConnell, you have more power if you get rid of that head.
He did.
Uh,
That's the crazy thing is that McConnell would have gone down in history as the most powerful Republican, legislatively ever. But now he will be forgotten.
yeah,
Which is Mitch McConnell's worst nightmare come true and entirely deserved.
yeah. I that move for me didn't never made sense that he would have saved him. Uh, I always thought he would have been stronger to have gotten rid of it. So you can remake the party however you want to. I mean, and hopefully in a better light. Like but uh, the the want to hold on to powers is a very strong pull for some of these people. I guess or maybe they're so out of touch they don't understand the implications. I think that's what happens at the executive level. I think those guys are so out of touch that they don't. There's no way that Trump's getting good information from his cabinet.
Got
And
another firing, huh? A resignation.
yeah, resignation. But I do think the firings are coming. I think Kash Patel gets fired.
Tulsi, you called Tulsi a while ago.
Yeah, I think Pete Hegseth gets fired. He's gonna have to
blame the war on him.
Yeah, I mean,
he has to,
and that may be the way he gets out of it. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. If I were Trump at this particular moment, and I were in this much of a situation,
fire everybody.
I would fire him. I would fire Kash Patel, and I would fire my national security advisor and say, I was given bad information, we're pulling out.
But Marco is the NSA, isn't he?
I guess, yeah, technically at the moment. But, I mean, what do you need Marco Rubio for?
Maybe you can fire him for being NSA, but leave him with everything else, his other jobs.
Yeah.
He lied to me in this capacity. He's fine in the other ones.
You might be able to get away with just getting rid of Pete.
I think you can.
I mean, there's enough. I mean, he fired 17 top military advisors. He was trying to trade stock. I mean, it's not even a far reach. There's enough there that you could fire him really without anyone raising an eyebrow, Republicans included.
Even if he was capable, the war's in such a bad spot. You need a scapegoat. You need to take a bullet for the president. He needs to be fired politically. The question is who replaces him.
Put who's the Joint Chief Director of the Army?
Kane?
The guy Kane. Make Kane your
yeah, Secretary of War.
And stop calling it Secretary of War. Like, rip that thing up. And
they're not going to do that. There's going to have to be a Democrat does that.
Yeah. I think you make Kane Secretary of Defense. I mean, technically, legally, it's still Secretary of Defense.
Yeah, it's like the Gulf of Mexico. It's the same thing.
So I think that you, if it were me and I were trying to save my reputation and I were advising him on what to do, it would be get rid of Hegseth, and claim that you were given bad information, and then pull out completely.
You think that's what'll happen?
I don't think he has another move. I mean,
he doesn't have another move, man, and then just leave the Strait of Hormuz in control of Iran, right? Just you lost, and you just say it was Pete's fault.
You send J.D. Vance over there. You get Jared Kushner and Whitmer out of there, and you say, "Hey, look, we messed up. We're going to give you everything that you want. We're going to go back to the way it was before. We're going to give you your reparations money because we made a mistake based on the bad information of a cabinet member," and you pull out.
I think you're probably right. There's no other way out. It's a quagmire otherwise.
It shows some sort of integrity, whether the man actually has it or not, which we know he doesn't, but it shows at least some sort of responsibility of governance to your allyship. And you get out of it, and your base gets to point to you as doing something responsible that no Democrat can say you did it wrong. Like, well, you can argue that he put us in a bad spot to begin with or whatever, but you can't argue with the methods in which he got out. And so if it were me, that's what I would do.
What do you think he does?
I think he keeps doing this thing where he threatens and then goes back and forth, and we do this for a while.
I think a long while.
Well, it's interesting because he keeps saying we're going to talks with Iran, and Iran says, "No, we're not." Like, what are you talking about? We're not.
He's stuck.
And I guess there's going to be talks tomorrow. I mean, because I think that there is some version of because Iran's not budging on any of this stuff.
No, why would they?
He's going to have to give them what they're asking for.
Yes.
Um,
I'm not sure they don't keep asking for more. I would.
I don't think. I think they keep their uranium. I also have a very interesting take on something that the rest of the world will probably disagree with me on.
Oh, good. That's usually me. So that's good.
I have this theory that you know how Israel's never signed the non-proliferation treaty.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they have nukes.
Iran or Israel?
Yeah, and let me tell you why.
Okay.
If it were me and I wanted the world to think I had nukes with no way to prove I didn't, I would do the old Schrodinger's nuke thing, where I claim to not have them, wink, wink, and let people kind of talk about it occasionally. But if I don't sign the thing, then you can't come in here and tell the world that I don't have them. And you always have that deterrence factor.
Get the best of, yeah. That's a bold theory.
And I say that because the difference in having 90 nukes and 9,000 nukes is nothing.
Right.
You can either go to war and annihilate your enemies, or you'll never fire 90, just like you'll never fire 9,000. And why else would you be so worried about another country in the Middle East having them, or even having the opportunity to make them?
You're talking about Israel having nukes.
Yeah, I don't think they do.
Yeah.
I know that's an odd statement considering that they project that they do in a very non-committal way.
But they've got the technology.
Yes.
Doesn't matter.
I
Let me ask you this. If you had
Yeah.
the technology and you could enrich the uranium and you're Netanyahu, would you not do it?
Yes, but the bigger question would be if which if you had nuclear weapons and you fired on Iran, you're so close to your enemies
You're nuking yourself.
that you're nuking yourself. You're going to destroy your soil and stuff for the next 10 generations too. So I mean, why it doesn't the idea of a nuclear exchange in that area doesn't even make sense.
Right.
The smallest payload nuclear weapon the United States has is still like 100 times the strength of Hiroshima.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, it's not you're doing thousands of years of damage to soil and air pollution.
To yourself.
Yeah. So I mean, there's no upside to it. That's why I don't think it even matters really. I genuinely don't think that Iran really cares about having one, except for deterrence purposes. Nothing there. Like I don't even know that you'd have time to retaliate at that close a range.
Yeah, you wouldn't. I mean, we're seeing that now.
So I don't. I
And
think it's
what
interesting.
does retaliation get since you're bombing yourself anyway?
Right. That's I mean, like it's so I don't know. I don't even know that they it's an interesting thing to me to not be part of a treaty if you're gonna openly kind of if it's gonna be an open secret, to not go ahead and sign the thing if you're gonna hold another like it takes away your grounding in wanting the other countries around you to sign something for no reason whatsoever. Unless you just want them to think you have.
Which is just as powerful as long as they do.
Yeah. Anyway, it's my bold theory of the day.
It's bold. I mean, it's certainly worth consideration. Can't prove it right or wrong either, so it's
Right.
worthy of a conversation.
That's right. Um, so I back to the other question about how do we get out. I think it's going to have to be just a um, if they're since they've decided to extend the ceasefire as of today, even though there's a rumor going around that he threatened to use a nuke on Saturday or wanted to threaten to use a nuke on Saturday, and Kane was like, "We're not doing that." Um, which at least we know that there is that safeguard is still in place. Now, whether or not that's true, obviously, we'll never know, but that's the rumor going around Washington.
Until Kane writes a book.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so, or if they use it against him for an impeachment or a 25th, which um, that's the other thing about using one is if we launch, so does Russia and so does China. Like they have the same policy. They have the same deterrence policy we do. Uh, so you got to really, really want to get out of the strait real bad. It's crazy. But I think that he probably goes in and says, "I need a way to save face, so let me get something," and they might let him out with something if they get reparations of some kind. But I don't even know what they would give up. I mean, it'd be uh,
Why would you?
they won't they will not open their strait again until there is meaningful UN resolution against an attack. It takes away the US veto power in that situation.
I think they go try to get something from Israel. Like, why wouldn't you be? They're on offense right now. They're not even on defense. We're not like I don't think we're at a standstill. I think the United States is stuck. The problem is Donald Trump doesn't know what victory looks like. We don't even know what we're negotiating for.
I do think this is where Hegseth got him into a situation. Netanyahu he's wanted Iran bombed forever, but I think Hegseth said, "We can do it. They won't close the strait because we'll take out the entire regime
They'll they'll
immediately,
they'll greet us like liberators.
and you don't have to worry about the strait." Well, now that that's not the case, and there's no regime change, there's not even close to it. Iran won't give that up because they know that regime change is your end goal. Like, why would you? I've got you against the ropes right now. It's uh,
There's nothing that I think if I'm Iran, it's like, no, we're not talking. Why would we talk?
yeah.
The person asking for talks is the person losing. We've got this straight. We're doing better than when we started. Yeah, we lost the Ayatollah, but his son is now running the regime. Yeah, there's been a lot of damage. Guess what? All of these people paying a $3 million per ship per day toll are going to end up paying the reparations. We're going to rebuild with the money that comes from what we allow out. Oh, and by the way, we're now going to start doing petro exchanges in other currencies other than dollars.
Oh, that's happening.
That's what I mean. Like
Uh,
they've got they still have way more leverage over us.
uh, let me ask you, do you think that uprising where there were several thousand people killed in Iran, do you think that was a, uh,
Ruse.
Yeah, like an Iran-Contra kinda thing?
No. Oh, like we were funding it?
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure CIA was involved somewhere. Sure,
Yeah.
for sure, for sure.
Uh,
And like I said, I have no doubt that Hegdes was probably saying, "We've got intelligence that once we take out the Ayatollah, it'll be so much chaos that somebody can step up and fill the void." I don't know if you remember, like, the Shahs of Iran's son was speaking at CPAC, and he shows up at CPAC, and he's greeted by a bunch of Iranian nationals, Persian nationals, who are like, "This guy's gonna come back." Where's that guy at? He's back in his Miami condo and shut the hell up. Like, no one's bringing that guy out again. That's what regime change looked like to them. Let's reinstall the Shah.
yeah,
That's where they were going. That's where they were going. Like, no one's talking about that anymore, but where is that? Like, CPAC was a disaster until the Shah's son comes out, gives a speech at the end, and 90% of it is Iranian flags waving. Like, this was being set up. Like, once we take out the Ayatollah and they need a regime change, we'll bring back the Shah and restore things the way they were when American imperialism was running the country. That's what they thought was going to happen. That was the strategy. Why else would he be at CPAC of all places?
yeah.
And no one's even talking about that. Like, there's no media reminders of that. Like, where's that old footage? By old, it's like 6 weeks ago. Like, where is that guy? He was making the rounds on Fox News and all the right wing podcasts. You haven't heard a word from him now. Like, that was the strategy. Like, they thought regime change, they'd replace it with a secular government. All those uprisings were going to take place. We'd open up their economy. Israel and the United States would control their government, and everything would be hunky dory because we got rid of the religious extremism. Guess what? None of that happened. And there was no plan B scenario to figure out what happens if we get stuck and there isn't a regime change. The only way to go and change the government of 92 million people is to launch a full scale boots on the ground military invasion, losing tens or hundreds of thousands of American lives. And I'm sure Donald Trump would be like, let's go, right? Except they're not offering that up as an option and saying, we've got to negotiate our way out of this now. And Iran now is like, why would we negotiate with you? Because we trust you on the Iran deal we signed, the Iran nuclear accords? Like, what has the US ever been trustworthy on? The US is not a trustworthy actor with our allies, with Canada, with Mexico, with NATO. Nobody trusts us. And you know what? I would not advise them to trust us. Whatever allies, foreigner enemies, don't trust us. Like, why would you? Like, we've backed up, we've completely obliterated our credibility on everything with every other entity on the planet. Nobody trusts us, and they shouldn't.
What do you think let's assume we get out of this as unexposed as we can, out of Iran, with as little exposure as possible. What do you think the foreign in a world where we're trying to rebuild ourselves, what do you think our foreign policy should look like?
I mean, it's a multilateral world now. We have to acknowledge that. We've got to trade that. We're gonna have to try and resurrect and use our advantages, resource wise, to try to resurrect our currency standing after this. I mean, say what you will about Kissinger and all the horrible things that I'm sure were committed, but the petrodollar was a genius move. It lasted for a long time, and it could have lasted longer had we had decent foreign policy.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it was good for the rest of the world. It wasn't, but it was very good for the United States. We are going to lose our quality of life from now to the end of my days. Like, it's not going to get better. It's going to get far worse. The middle powers, as the Canadian Prime Minister refers to them correctly as, are going to see, I think, a rise in their quality of living. We're going to see ours decline. And so it is going to be a more multilateral world. And the truth is, in many ways, that's sort of been happening with globalization. That was the first steps of it. But again, the prime minister's speech at Davos was extraordinary, where he just outlined it. It's like, that worked. Globalization worked for the United States to prop itself up, and we were willing pawns because it worked for us for a while.
Yeah.
But let's not be, let's no longer fool ourselves that the American empire is based off of these universal truths that they've always said they have. First of all, they've never been true to that creed, which we have not. We haven't.
Yeah.
But now we're explicitly anti that, and we screw our allies. And it's not, like I said, it's not Donald Trump and this all goes away. We elected him twice, almost 3 times. They don't trust the American people, and they shouldn't. That's why we're untrustworthy.
Yeah.
It's not Trump. It's we as a people can't be trusted. So when you asked what's the foreign policy framework, boy, I don't know. Like, if it was like a British Empire slowly, gradually, gracefully heading into decline and second class status, that would be one thing. That's not likely to happen because the only power that we can do that with, and I don't think we can in our character do that, by the way, but let's say we could, it would be the rise of India.
Mhm.
India is possibly the only nation, possibly, and that's like a coin toss. If India were to surpass China as the hegemon, but I think for the rest of my days, there's not gonna be a hegemon. We are in a Game of Thrones situation now where there's 5 empires, and they all have strong advantages and strong disadvantages.
I don't think China wants it.
No,
Uh,
they never have.
I don't know that India wants it. I think India is comfortable where they are.
I think
Uh,
Modi wants it.
you think so?
I mean, I don't know. I maybe not. I don't know.
Well,
But I
I just say that from the headache that comes with it when you have a uh,
it's expensive, dude.
yeah, uh,
It's expensive, and look, it usually emerges kind of like after a conflict like the Second World War, right? Or the Roman Empire through conquest. It doesn't happen because it hasn't historically happened in you've got China's got a lot of problems, but it does have a lot of strengths. India's got a lot of strengths. It has weaknesses too. Russia's got more weaknesses. I don't know if it's got any strengths really. And we're kind of like, we've got more strengths than weaknesses, but our weaknesses are catching up pretty quick. And
the
the
amount
big
of the amount of money that Russia invested in the U.S. Elections and propaganda, they could have done incredible things with their economy. Um,
that's
and
never been the Russians' focus.
no,
It's
uh,
always been an empire. And
uh,
to his credit, as much as they've spent, it was cheaper than by national conflict with the United States.
yeah, fair
It
enough. Yeah,
probably destabilized us to the point of massive decline, cheaper than whatever he spent.
that's fair. Uh, it. What do you think that ends up? Do you think he pulls back out of Ukraine completely?
I think Ukraine pushes him back to the point where he they don't call it a withdrawal, it'll just end with a whimper.
Yeah,
I mean, Russia's in retreat right now.
yeah.
I mean, the Ukrainians have redefined warfare with drone technology. And that's kind of what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna just be, like, stuck, and at a certain point, the world is gonna keep operating while we keep saying we're gonna change the strait, we're gonna get it back, and we're gonna have these discussions, and we're not bombing, and there's no military conflict, and Iran's in control, but we're gonna get it back, and then after, like, a year and a half, everyone's gonna go like, "Let's just go home." It's theirs, they won,
Yeah.
right? That so, it'll be like as Trump said, "I won, I killed him." To him, that's winning. "I won. We won. They're decimated." Well, we didn't win, but in his mind, it's like playing toy soldiers.
Yeah. I don't even know what we would if I were to make up goals, right? If it were me, I couldn't come up with a thing, and I'm not an idiot. Like I, you
Exactly.
know,
I
uh,
know. That's what they got us into.
So
There's no out. There's no win.
uh, I,
It's gonna be a slow war of attrition until we actually like everyone just moves on from it and realize, yeah, we lost. We lost. It was stupid. It was ignoramuses in charge. We did damage, destruction, killed innocent people, and lost.
uh,
And we're just gonna pretend like we're negotiating and we're not. The Strait of Hormuz is open and it's not. It's like, no, we lost the Strait of Hormuz in this war. That's what happened.
uh, and I don't even know what we've gotten out of Venezuela.
Either, but he'll go to Cuba. He'll, run a military invasion of Cuba like we did in where do we go? Panama? What did we do?
You know, Russia just sent,
Grenada. Remember we invaded Grenada? We
yeah,
whole lives are in then?
um, but Russia just sent portable power plants
To where?
to Cuba.
All the more reason to go in. The Russians. Who knows, man? I don't. Like there's no coherent foreign policy. Like I've told you, like I'm going to go to Oxford Union to debate on Trump's. Has he betrayed conservatism? It's the easiest answer. Of course he has, because there's no coherent alternative. Like there's no coherent foreign policy at any level here. You can't debate his foreign policy because we don't know what it is. There's no objectives. There's no mission. There's no tactics. There's no grand strategy built around an objective. It's just like bomb them. BB's going to bomb them. I want to be in on the cowboy scene. I want American fighter pilots dropping the bombs because Americans love that. And I will be those guys. And now it's like, no, that just means $8 a gallon gas in California.
I would love to see, and I've read the National Defense Strategy. Like I've read
Of course you have.
None of it is a coherent. I mean, to be honest, the NSS for 26 was all about isolationism. It was bring it back home. So this is
nothing consistent.
crazy. And also we're not doing any of the things that we're supposed to be defending the homeland portion of it. That Mike, I don't know. I'm at a loss, truthfully.
Don't overthink it, man. There's nothing coherent about it. Like that was what I finally had to learn is like, why are Republicans supporting this? And what does this mean? That's why it's a cult. They just believe in him.
Yeah.
Because you can't defend it other than to say, oh, Trump never loses. Well, he just lost. And they'll go to their dying day. Oh, no, this is part of a bigger strategy. And it's like, and then you realize you're arguing with somebody who's bringing you down, and you have to try to find their arguments to give them to dispel them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just enjoying it because they're a fool arguing with a smarter person and thinking that they're winning.
It's short of his strategy being to accelerate the decline of the United States economy. I don't think he's hitting those goals. You know what I mean? It's been a rough one. But I am interested at least to see what comes out of this. Again, I watch the news and I see that, we're going to go to Trump announces that there's going to be a ceasefire talk. And then an hour later, Iran says there's no ceasefire. I don't know what to believe anymore. He's made it fake news because he just lies constantly. So I don't even know how to keep up. I don't even know how to keep up to date with foreign stuff at this point. Al Jazeera, I guess, but they just report on what they hear.
That's exactly right, and that's how authoritarianism sets. Is like when nothing can be believed, you just believe him because he's the source of the information. And it's easier. It's mentally and intellectually easier to just turn it over to him to think for you.
Yeah,
that's so much of it.
Well, I've lost my pacing as far as trying to keep up with. You can't watch it happen in real time anymore. You have to wait till the end of the day when somebody has sorted through the bullshit. And that's a terrible place to find yourself.
Yeah.
I often wonder what the Vietnam War lasted 10 years. and we didn't get anything out of it. Is how does that feel? I mean, for the American people, how did that feel knowing that there was, and what were they selling you as wins or goals being met during that time? I mean, I guess the end state there was to control the spread of communism,
Yeah.
but you didn't. I mean, I guess you saved South Viet, I mean, but
Yeah, it was like North Korea and South Korea. Let's hold South Vietnam.
yeah,
And it worked until it didn't work. But I mean, that was the theory.
yeah.
But there were no objectives other than that. And you don't know who the enemy is. We didn't know who the enemy was. Who's Viet Cong and who's not? I mean, that's where it's, you know, but and that's the danger of empire, right? Is this you got Hegseth going, we're the American military, we can do whatever we want, and we find very quickly a year into the term, no, you can't. That's why you have diplomacy. That's why you use soft power. That's why you use backdoor negotiations. That's sometimes why you have the dark arts of intelligence. It's not simply going in and bombing people into rubble. And that's just what they think it is. And they did. And they're realizing, oh, this is a real nightmare now. Yeah, dudes, you broke something very significant and you cut your hand and you're bleeding out and you don't know what to do because you can't put the vase back together again.
Well, it's Napoleon all over again. It is you stop. You're not using strategic tactics anymore because you have a huge army. And then the first thing to go is the logistical part of it. How do you feed them?
It's
You know,
expensive. Empire's
uh,
expensive.
and you go to Russia to fight and you lose because
Feed them, warm them.
you can't do any of the things that you're supposed to do to keep an army fighting. Uh, it's it is starting to believe your own mythology, and I think that's Hegseth doesn't have a mythology, but the United States has one, and he is buried in it. He just uh he, and that to me is the real problem of having someone who doesn't have the kind of combat experience that it requires to be in charge. Like, uh, he's he's just an idiot with a gun, and now he just has a huge gun, uh,
It's a Fox News soldier.
and no idea of how to command people and lead with diplomacy. So yeah, we're in a pickle, but I'm interested to see what happens.
We're gonna find out.
Yeah,
I think we'll
uh,
call it a night. What do you think?
yeah. I've got it's 11 o'clock here.
Yeah,
Let's
it's
do it
late.
again
It's not.
Thursday.
Let's do
Same
it
time.
Thursday.
Same time. You good for
Same
that?
time, same place, guys. Same time, same place. 7
Uh,
p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Central.
yeah. Seems to be a good time. I like this better. I don't have anything come up, like nothing
No,
that surprises me. So yeah,
yeah, that's perfect. Right after dinner for me, all my days coming down, and it's a good way to end the day. Share
perfect.
some ideas with you.
I'm gonna get to work on the rest of this thing on Kevin Marsh, and I will get that posted here in a little bit. So
And we'll work on our book list, folks. We promise you we
yeah,
will.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'll take that responsibility on figuring out what the infrastructure looks like for that.
Excellent. Good
All
to
right,
see you,
thanks,
Mike.
buddy.
We'll talk
See
to
you in
you
a couple
soon.
days. Bye
Bye.
bye.